Hello once again, I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the goriest, bless you, the goriest, scariest, sneeziest hosts on the net. Oh my gosh, tonight we are reviewing Lovecraft Country, episode 8. Oh, that was quite the intro, titled Jig-A-Bobo. Oh my gosh. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the episode. We're going to give our first impressions, and then at the end we're going to give final thoughts, our score, and a favorite scene. So you're going to stick around for that. But first, let me introduce my crew here, starting off with Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, bud? Award-winning filmmaker, and this weekend you won more awards.
Yeah, we won one for best special effects from the Chicago Horror Film Festival. So that's awesome. Right?
Chicago.
Yay. I know. So it's awesome news.
And what is the film?
Oh, it's called Backward Creep. There's a few amazing actors and actresses that are part of it. One of them's in one of these little these Brady Bunch boxes.
The Brady Bunch.
Vanessa.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great segue. Also joining us is podcasting rock star and international cosplay queen, Vanessa Thompson. How you doing, Vanessa?
Good. I'm doing good. A little dust up my nose, but other than that, feeling all right.
We'll just call you Sneezy.
I don't want to sneeze out anything, any or anything like that.
Yeah, Sneezy Spitfire. That's the new nickname.
Sneezy Spitfire.
Sneezy, not cheesy. All right. Well, we want to welcome special guest host Christopher Slattery, the Slattman, all the way over from Heroes and Droids. How you doing, sir?
Good. A little creeped out still, but good.
A little creeped out. Well, that might be my fault. But anyway, So this episode of Lovecraft Country may have been a little creepier than others, maybe.
Just a little bit.
All right. So what are we talking about? We are talking about, of course, Lovecraft Country. This is episode 8 called Jig-A-Bobo. It aired October 4th, 2020 on HBO, based on the novel by Matt Ruff. The director, I ran into conflicting information, so I don't know which one to trust. So I'm going to go with the one I have written down here, which I got from Wiki, is Misha Green being the director, and Misha Green and Huma Afordire. Aphrodite? Aphrodite. I think it's Aphrodite. What do you think?
Aphrodite?
Aphrodite. Did I not say that? I didn't say that, didn't I? Aphrodite. Are the writers, and I apologize profusely for being such a poor pronunciation. Diana finds herself in Captain Lancaster's crosshairs when a visitor from his past arrives. Atticus and Leti take steps to protect their future. And there's Bopsy and Topsy there on the picture, which are very, I don't know, a little Nightmare on Elm Street-ish. Maybe we'll talk about that when we get there. This was really creepy. There were some good actual scares in this episode, and I can't wait to hear what the crew thinks. So that's what we're going to do. Our first thoughts. And we're going to start off with Vanessa. Vanessa, what is your first impression of Lovecraft Country episode?
I enjoyed this one. I felt like we kind of got a little catch up with everybody. And I was really, really surprised at our first visitor. And I can't wait to see, now that she's in the States, that's not giving too much away, what's going to come of her character. And yeah, there was a lot of twists and turns in this one. There's, it really left us on a cliffhanger, which these episodes, you can't say that they really do that. They kind of are pretty well self-contained. Like they're carrying a story through all of them, but each one kind of wraps up a little bit. And I feel like this one just left a whole bunch of questions open, especially for only having 2 episodes left.
That's right.
But I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, they call this the anti-penultimate episode.
There's too many ultimates back for me.
Too many ultimates. All right. Up next is the Slattman. What was your first impression of episode 8 of Lovecraft Country?
It's real good.
Yay!
Simple to the point.
Yeah. This show just keeps pumping out great episodes. And one of the great things about it, and one of the things that I know as a group we always praise, is how each episode seems to be like its own little genre film, and this one definitely feels very different compared than all of the other episodes that we've seen so far. I can't really think of like the genre that this one falls into, but kind of stalkerish, like, but not really like slasher, you know? I don't know. It's got a bunch of, and that's only one of the subplots, but that's the subplot that really leaves a mark for me. But yeah, it does a great job. It's everything just keeps getting better with it, I feel like. But I will agree with Vanessa. It feels like there's more questions than answers for only having 2 episodes left. And gosh darn it, they got to start answering some of these questions.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a feeling. Well, we do have 2 episodes left.
And
All
where's
right.
Hippolyta?
Yeah, right. All right. Of course, up next is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. What is your first impression of Lovecraft Country, episode 8?
I think the only thing that was missing, they should have played the song "Bulletproof" for one song. If they really want to incorporate more new stuff.
I did like the music selection for this one. This one.
Well, yeah, that we had a nice '80s song in there with "Cruel Summer," which was, not the kind of song you'd associate with some of the stuff, but I think it worked really well, especially when you get into the historical element. Because I mean, we've already had a few episodes where we talked about Emmett Till's character, and we finally, sadly, it goes into what happened to him, which again is another. It is always interesting how they incorporate historical stuff, and they also have other stuff that plays into that, because later on, Christina does something that ties into the Emmett Till thing, which is really, really, I just love that kind of thing where you can have different characters, and, or you have characters that are dealing with something, and then you have the magical side element to that. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful episode. And me, I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. So when you got little girls playing, jump rope and in slow motion and singing some little song, I'm all about that. But they basically mated that with the twins from Shining.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel also I want to let's put some Candyman in there too, because you have this creation that was created, this sort of cursed beings that are coming after her that are just very creepy. And I love that. Because a lot of times our nightmares are based on certain things that we deal with or issues and stuff. And that issue is the racist stereotypes and characters that have been created, throughout the history of entertainment. And the way these characters move are just like some of those old sort of, I forgot what the type of shows they were back then, but those type of shows where they do like the different dances and stuff. A little bit that was played into that song Donald Glover did, "This Is America," which plays into some of the stereotypes. So yeah, I love how they can work that kind of stuff in and put a little edge to it, because that image of seeing that physically of these 2 characters coming after her, very creepy. And of course the one has long nails like Freddy Krueger. So, but yeah, and there's like one really good jump scare in this. Netflix seems to have a good thing going for jump scares involving cars. That's all I'll say.
It's not TV, it's HBO.
oh, sorry. I'm not saying Netflix. All these streaming services meld together. like the Shining Twins and Freddy Krueger. They just meld together.
That's right.
My bad. Thanks for correcting me. To somebody who watches this video, it's like, what the F is Chris talking about? Let's just forget I said that. We'll erase it with a magic eraser.
Edit it out on post
right now.
I let me tell you right now, I don't know everything, and I'm not the smartest tool in the shed. Anyway, yeah, it's a wonderful episode. We get lots of bloody gore. for me, they they've had some really cool sex scenes, but the sex scene in this is a little intense, kind of gruesome. But I don't know. They just do all. I think the only thing I kind of felt was a little bit. I mean, when they brought the G, I think her name's the character's Gia, Jamie Chung's character.
Mm-hmm.
She's only in there for a little bit. But I guess it's you want to sort of see, like, I hope it's not just a throwaway type thing. You know what I mean? Where she just shows up for this little bit and doesn't come back.
No
So
way.
I don't know. Yeah, I hope not. But it just seemed like a very, I'm not even sure if that was really needed in this episode. But yeah. And although the end of this episode, I'm not sure how that neighborhood's gonna be able to recover from that. I don't know how you come back from that, but I don't know. But it's a TV show, so
They're gonna Men in Black style it.
well, yeah. I'm like, does Christina come in there? Or do they use magic or something? Because there's a lot of bloodshed in towards the end. I don't know how you can really explain that to your neighbors when there's all kinds of dead, bloody cops. But yeah, I love this episode. This episode and there's like one moment that really WTF moment, like, oh, I wasn't expecting that I love. Because it's a rarity in TV shows. It's usually like, okay, I kind of see this. And that's what I love about the show. You never know what's going to happen next. And I love how they also work in how they change stuff from the book. And then they talk about the book that he found, and it kind of points to things that were in the book, but it's like a snake eating itself. It's kind of weird. It's
like a new version of fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I just love how they even work out that they've made changes and they work that into the storyline. So I think this show's brilliant, and it keeps surprising me episode after episode. But yeah, there is a lot of questions unanswered, but I'm excited to see what happens next. We only have like 2 episodes left, so
yeah. Even Montrose gets a little bit of a moment to kind of shine some light on his past, and in a quite touching scene between him and Atticus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's we get a little bit of resolution with some of the characters, but then we see that it's building towards something even bigger with Christina, messing around with people. Yeah,
there's something really screwy going on with her. She this one scene on the dock. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this episode had me kind of like wondering if I had missed an episode for about half of it. The first half, I was like, did I miss something? What's going on? I felt lost a little bit personally, but caught up. And it just felt like the structure by the time I caught up, and I said, okay, I get it. What's going on here? I really, really liked the story with Dee running around trying to save herself and being resourceful, but yet still a child, still scared. Riding her bike right at it, screaming, was a great scene of her, empowering herself. There's the Topsy character with the Bopsy twin version of it, and from Uncle Tom's Cabin, right? Because that's the book that she sees that transforms while she's looking at it, which is really interesting, because almost every episode has a point of literature in it, right? It has there's a book that they point out. And I guess that's what the book we get this time. But man, the visuals they manage are insanely creepy. Just from the way they move to I don't know if you caught the one time when she smiled and stuck her tongue out before she shut the door going into George's, and her eyes were glowing and big. Oh my God, it's very creepy. Very creepy. There's shots of them in the daylight, and they're creepy in the daylight. So you've got something. If you could be scary in broad daylight, you got something. And they got something. There was something to it. And it was probably because Dee's reaction was so horrifying. She was really good in this. Mm-hmm. I love the music that they chose this. There was a lot going on with this. I don't know if it's one of my favorite episodes, but at the same time, I thought this one moved the story along, in the latter half at least, quite a bit more than maybe others, other than the first ones, which did a lot of setup. Our characters are coming together. They're starting to kind of resolve their inner conflicts and focus on their future, is what they're calling it now, right? They're trying to say their future, which is, the secret that Leti is holding close to her chest, right? So, so all in all, yeah, this was a fun episode. Definitely worth a watch. There hasn't been a flawed, failed episode in 8 episodes yet, and that's pretty remarkable. And I'm expecting it to end on similar notes. I can't see that the next 2 episodes are going to drop the ball. They just seem to be on point, and they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
And I literally have no idea where it's going to go this next episode, because it could go anywhere.
I have about 1,000 theories. But...
Yeah.
Yeah, I in my heart, I really hoped that Hippolyta would have shown up at the end to save her daughter, but I'm hoping that she'll show up later on, because
she did. She help me remember. I mean, she did run out into the woods, right? Did she come back, or is she still lost in the other world?
She didn't come back.
She didn't come back.
She stayed with
okay. It was
space people.
It was Tick that ran out into the woods, right? Okay. Because I was trying to remember. It was like,
although I don't know if you guys watched the little stinger for next episode. It seems like they're going to go back into that portal again. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and we're still going to find out what happens with Dee. I thought that was an interesting choice, that they they didn't necessarily resolve her storyline.
Yeah,
so
carrying it over.
Yeah. Oh, it seems like maybe the next episode is almost very Exorcist-ish. Now she's being taken over by this weird, creepy character spirit.
Yeah. Because there was a shot of it. Yeah, if you watch the ending, the stingers at the end. I mean, there's so much to like about this. There's just so much going on. From the sheriff can't get into the house.
Oh, that was such a great moment when that happened.
Yeah. To the Leti sitting up, and you see all the bullets bouncing.
That's where I wish
a beautifully shot scene.
Oh yeah, the whole time I'm like, because usually, especially TV shows, sometimes they're limited in the effects budget, but when you have that kind of scene where everything's in slow motion and she's just standing there, and it even like went off of her hair, almost like it just made her hair just blew it or whatever. And I was like, that's such a cool visual. I was like astounded by some of the stuff in that, even the beast that shows up and it's just stabbing people. Oh, sorry.
Spoilers. No, that's okay. That's okay.
It's a good scene though.
Yeah, oh man. So Slattman, were you like me and we're like, oh crap, they're going to shoot Tick. They're actually going to shoot Tick because no way she can get there to save him.
I was a little worried about that, but but the whole time that was happening, I kind of thought back to a scene that Leti had with Christina earlier, and I thought that was going to be a payoff for that scene. But it went in a completely different direction. No spoilers, and I'm very happy in the direction it went.
Yeah, I mean, we got probably one of the best blood showers ever.
Literally.
That one guy gets
yes.
Oh wow.
My favorite's the body that goes off by the house.
Yeah.
All it was missing was the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh man. But Vanessa, Dee, tell us about Dee this episode. I mean, we focus on her, and that's another thing each episode is doing. And they're kind of doing that lost format, if you will, where
Mhm.
it's tick centric, it's Leti centric, it's Hippolyta centric,
Yeah.
and this was very much D centric, and D can stand up for herself
Mhm.
quite a bit, even in the face of this very scary thing coming on.
Mhm.
How important is that scene when she faces the sheriff again and then spits on his tie?
Oh, incredibly important, because it really shows her character growth. But it also shows how she is the product of her parents. She is George and she is Hippolyta, in one, and that attitude and that resilience and that, steadfastness in the face of danger was so great to see. She was so strong in that moment. She had her mind and her will set, and her whole kind of storyline or story arc in this episode felt so 80s to me, very like coming of age, finding yourself, especially with her being on the bike, right, and running from these girls and setting up her little where she's going to battle, the two twins. Like, it felt like really paying homage to that kind of feeling that you got in the 80s, where a lot of kids were leading these stories, these very emotional stories, these coming of age stories. But I'm really interested. I think that Hippolyta is going to have something to do with her snapping out of whatever is going on with her now. So I'm thinking, my prediction is that she's going to show up in the next episode, but we'll see.
We'll see. Gosh, what can you say? Did you guys catch the drawing she was drawing before?
Yes.
Mhm.
I think that's how they're going to figure it out.
Mhm.
Figure out what was chasing her.
That I think so.
Because everything in this show is done for a reason.
Mhm.
Everything.
Yes, and Christopher G. Moore. That's the nature of great screenwriting, right?
Yeah, you got to put those little pieces, those bread crumbs that'll lead you to where you need to go.
And if you notice, there was more than one drawing that she had. You
Mhm.
couldn't make out all of them, but she had like probably like 10 pieces of paper around her.
Yeah, because the one was the girl looking into the car window, right? The one that was all well, yeah, which was that. Well, we'll get to there. It's time. What we do now is we wrap it up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. That's what you've been waiting out for, because we all pick a favorite scene. But first, if you are enjoying this, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, or dislike button. Hit the bell so you can be reminded. Leave some comments. So let us know what you think of the show. Oh, and give Christopher Slattman some coffee. So
not at 11 at night.
Oh man! All right, let's do this. And Vanessa, you're up first. Why don't you give us your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene?
This episode was tied through the whole way with a very sad reality of what happened to Emmett Till, and them bringing that to light in this episode and building our characters around knowing this young man. And I feel like we're really caught up with a lot of our characters. And when I mean caught up, I mean exactly caught up. I kind of feel like we are all at the same place now. We all have the same amount of knowledge. We all are stepping through these doors kind of blindly together for these next 2 episodes. And I feel like that's a real interesting place to be there with the characters as they're going through what they're going through, to not have any advanced knowledge or anything guiding us. And I really appreciated getting to see Dee take on her role in this story and seeing her come to terms with what is going on with magic. All of a sudden, magic is spit in her face. And that's a lot to come to terms with. And you think you're an orphan at this point, and just all these crazy things going on outside of the realm of reality. But I also kind of feel like this is a bit of a pass-through episode for me. It's definitely not my favorite, but I don't hate it at all. It's still a wonderful episode, but with it feeling like that, and Chris, what you were saying about it being hard to kind of place the genre and where it was falling into, I feel that as well. So because of that, I'm going to give this one a 4.5. Only because there are some that have just been, I would have given them all 5s basically up until this point because they've just been so phenomenal. But my favorite scene, and this is definitely a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead. But it's when Atticus summons his terror dog.
Yeah,
that is my absolute favorite. From that moment till the end of that scene, I just freaking love. I thought it was awesome. It has so many implications as to what's going to happen next, and it's our first time seeing him use his magic, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just a crazy because you see Leti running out in that moment, and you think of the reality of what happens when an officer is pointing a gun at a black man, and what's going to happen next. And then that happening was such a shock and a surprise. It was so cool.
And gory. And
super beautiful.
I'm not going to lie. When I saw that scene, I thought it was going to pull a Superman and just go boink right off of Atticus. But what we got was so much better.
Oh, yeah.
Was it going to do that? Yeah. Boink? I would love a boink.
With that sound effect.
Yeah, Slattman, tell us your final thoughts, your score and favorite scene.
This is another great episode, and like Vanessa was saying, it's nice that we finally get all of the, not all of them, but a lot of kind of loose ends all kind of tied into like one point, to where these next couple episodes, it really just is just one continuous line of questions rather than branching paths going this way and this way and this way and this way and this way. So it's nice that we've got one singular storyline that we're going to be focusing on, I hope, for the next 2 episodes. But this episode was great. Dee's the actress who played Dee is phenomenal. I don't want to end this podcast without giving her praise, because she put in so much heart and so much passion into her performance, and you really felt for her. You felt like she was alone, and you felt bad for her. And even when she was in a crowded place, you could tell that she was just kind of by herself, and she played that so well. And probably the most terrifying moments this entire series has given us has been every scene with her running away from these demons or ghosts or whatever the hell they are. And again, the performances, just tying this in, the performances are still great. Everybody has putting in such a great performances, so much emotion, and so much, even when there's not emotion needed, that's just that the performances are just so well done. And plenty of WTF moments in this episode too, just, to cap it all off. For my score, I'm going to give it a 4.5 because it is a little kind of out there throughout the entire episode, but it really comes together in the end. So, and it looks like, based on the next episode's previews, it really comes together next episode. So, and then for my favorite scene, there's a lot to choose from.
All right, while you're thinking, Jada Harris is the actress that you're talking about that plays Diana Freeman. We call her Dee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Jada Harris is awesome. My favorite scene is probably the conversation between Ruby and oh gosh, I'm blanking. Christina, yeah. Where Ruby gives this really passionate speech about why she did what she did, and Christina just comes back with, no, yeah, I don't feel anything, and this is what I think. And it's just that I felt like that was just a very well acted scene.
It was really well staged too. Mm-hmm. It was interesting camera work. I mean, usually just having the characters face to face like that doesn't always work, but they intercut it with some other things, and it was pretty intense.
Speaking of stage, I want to give an honorable mention to when Leti walks into the house and Gia's there, and they're talking, and there's the wall between them, but you could tell they're talking through a doorway. Like, but they're both on screen. Like, that was a really cool shot.
Yes. All right, Christopher G. Moore. Final thought, score, favorite scene?
Well, I think one thing, this show's been doing a pretty good job of is delving. It has the fantastical elements, but it also ties into a lot of historical things that have happened, especially when it comes to majority of it dealing with Black people in America. And if you don't know about Emmett Till, look up the information online, because that it can be, they sort of don't get into it too much in the very beginning with the funeral, but Emmett Till was lynched. He was mutilated, shot in the head, dropped into the Tallahatchie River. And with this show starting with that funeral, his mom did it as an open casket so people could see his bloated body, to see what they did to that, what horrible things they did to that young boy. And it helped to sort of start a lot of the civil rights type stuff, which they get into a little bit in this episode. They hint at it a little bit, because there's that one part where it's like, what's that smell? And it's him, because it was like a really hot day. And then they have this sort of like open casket. And it's such a horrible thing, but it's weird how these horrible events are the instigators, or not the instigators, or the creators of like these things to make people realize, because there was all these magazines and stuff coming out with the pictures of his body, just to show people like, hey, this is what racism is. They took this innocent young boy and they killed him, and the people that did it ended up getting off because of an all-white jury. And then they admitted to it later in years because of double jeopardy rules. So it's really sad that their country, did these horrible things. But I like how they still have these important moments in history, and they incorporate in part of the story. But then you also have the great fantastical elements as well, and how they also tie that thing into Christina and her sort of rebirth, or whatever she's doing magically to be, to create immortality as her character is doing. But yeah, I love this episode. I think like I mentioned earlier, I think it still was. I think it's a great episode. I love the whole side story involving the creepy girls, very Nightmare on Elm Street-ish, or Nightmare on Racist Street, I guess. But then you also have you have some really great conversations between characters throughout, and then we have that great sort of ending with a lot of bloodshed. So there's a lot of great moments. I think my only thing is that, as much as I agree with Chris's talk about that sort of what the mise en scene, as they say, about like how everything's framed in the camera, and how a lot of times you'll create a separation between people using the elements in that environment. That's a cool shot. But I think the only thing that felt out of place was the GI character. It felt kind of shoehorned into this episode. So they have all these different conversations between people. I think that's the only thing that felt out of place for me. But I loved everything else. I love the special effects. I love the action scenes. I love even the things where they're trying to create magic, and just even some of the conversations are great. And definitely this is one of the creepiest episodes with the creepy girls. That makes me kind of want to pull the shutters on all my on my windows. As for rating, I guess I'll probably the same as everybody else, 4.5. I probably would have given it 5 if there'd been a little, I don't know, the GI thing kind of seemed out of place, and I hope they give her a little bit more a stronger integral part of the story. I guess because it didn't seem, the reactions and stuff didn't seemed kind of off, I guess. As for favorite scenes, I'll say this. It's a two-parter. Okay. If we want to go the horror element, I'll say the anything involving the creepy girls. Okay.
Yes.
But if I want a dramatic scene, I like the scene between Christina and Leti when they're in the church.
Oh yeah, that was.
I love that conversation they have and how they relate it to religion. You know, how the Letty's not really religious, and I love her how she says, "Well, I became religious when I came back to life or whatever." and how their discussion about religion and that kind of thing, and then also she's kind of doing her own thing, like Atticus was trying to make a deal, trying to get her way. How everybody's sort of doing their thing to get what they want. So I guess I'll have to say that drama scene is probably my favorite conversation scene. But I think anything involving the creepy girls,
absolutely,
that's the true horror of this show so far.
Yes, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It's not going to be my favorite episode, but it may have some scenes that I'm going to remember. Because of the Topsy and Bopsy characters running around. It was just so wonderfully and creepily realized. It really was like scary. It was scary. They did a great job. And push. There's a lot to there's a lot to say in this particular episode. At the same time, it felt a little jumbled story-wise, and I'm thinking on the scene that you're talking about, Christopher, with Gia, is that it almost feels like it was shoehorned in, like it was in a different episode and put in here. And it's mostly tone because it's kind of out of tone of what everything else is going on, but it's there for a purpose. I'm certain, I'm certain it's going to pay off in the next couple episodes. So it just seems awkward that she would just show up and then be told to leave, and that would be it. Although Atticus was quite the dick to her. I'm just going to say he was a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
I would give this a 4.5 as well. I'm just going to do it now. Real quick. Christina does a little something where she's trying to make herself immortal, right? And she does a little something, and she basically recreates what happens as far as how Ruby described what happened, right? It almost recreates that, and I think it was because she wanted to feel as much. I think Ruby got to her.
Well, yeah, I think that she, in order for her to understand it, she had to experience what that kid went through to some degree.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree. I think that's, I to be honest, I didn't even think about that. That's her way of being able to relate to what Ruby brought to her attention.
Yeah. It was interesting though. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the shot of like this Google shot of a bridge, like a little dock, and it has at the very end, there's looks like a blood splatter. Look like, was there a murder here? Kind of thing. I don't know if you ever seen that. It's one of these Google mysteries, if you will. And the little blood slide off into the lake reminded me of that, or the river. Whatever.
Although anyway, that scene was very hard to watch.
It was brutal.
Beating the crap out of her. That was really hard to watch.
Yeah. So my favorite scene would have to be when the Topsy and Bopsy show up at the train station. I just thought that was so scary. When you first see the second one pop out from behind the first one, it just was absolutely frightening. And very, very, very creepy. If I do go for a more serious scene, conversation scene, it would be between Atticus and Montrose. I really liked their reconnecting. Because it took a while, right? Because Atticus was going to walk away, but he doesn't. And when he sits down, he even scoots like one seat away when he sits down. He's still not comfortable with that situation, which is, it goes back to what I said last week, that, I love that these characters are so flawed, right? They're flawed and they have depth, and they're not they're not cookie cutter characters at all. They've really fleshed out these characters, and I appreciate it because as that scene progresses, you see Atticus, grow and change in those moments, and that's what you want. That's what you want out of a great story.
Well, especially when he takes a swig of his alcohol. At that point, you realize that they've made a connection.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go. That's our review of Lovecraft Country, episode 8, Jig-A-Bobo. It's check it out. Let us know what you think. There were some spoilers. If you didn't watch it and watched us first, apologies. Hopefully I'll put no spoilers in the title, or spoilers in the title. Again, subscribe, hit the like button, leave us some comments. We want to know what you thought of this particular episode. Was it straight up Nightmare on Elm Street, or was it something? I knew it is. Come on, it is. Right?
The girls playing jump rope. That's, that's straight Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, they had their own song, right? Let Me In.
Yeah, and they're jumping rope in slow motion. I mean, that's primo Nightmare on Elm Street.
That is
homage.
Yep. All right, Slattman, Christopher, Vanessa, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's always great time talking to you guys.
All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.